Hello guys. When we are working with Salesforce, sometimes it's required for us to track a history of the changes of the specific field and in general to take a look what is, like changes in our audits trails. So for us, in order to be able to do it, we have in the Salesforce a couple of features that allowing us to do so. So first feature which will I have to show you, which is I applied for the incident object. It's a possibility for us to track the changes of the specific field. So as you could see at this moment on the incident record, I have enabled it for a couple of fields, and those fields root cause, incident impact, root cause, website description. And here you could see that it's actually allowing us to track from what value to what it was updated and when the change especially was done. So that means that on the specific record, we could put it into the separate tab, for example, history, and be able, like to observe how it's look like. And you have here, a refresh button to be able to take a look if there was any kind of new fresh updates. So here you could find out that for one of the field website descriptions, there was not actually original value and no new value. So what is the reason for this? It's because of Salesforce limitation to track some kind of fields in terms of, like text inside of it. It's actually working like this for the long text areas and for multi-select pick lists. So in that cases, what is possible for us to do is we could prepare a custom logic, and that custom logic, for example, could post into the chatter, like what is the new value, what is the old value, because like it will be required for us to do it like this and not just apply feed posts, because feed posts also will be not able to track it and it will be via the same manner. So let us deep dive into it, how it could be set, and like what are limitations around it. So when we go into the specific object in the object manager, here we could find out what kind of fields actually allowing us to track their old and new values, and what fields are actually allowing us to only track changes. So for example, this website description, as we just discussed, right, not allowing us to track changes for old and new, and for others we could define them. So in regarding to limitation around it, at this moment we have 20 fields per object, so that means that like it's only could be increased in the specific situation. But in general, like here is the limit that we need to respect. So next item that we could also use for us in order to be able to track changes, but also in addition to this, post updates about it into the chatter feed related to that specific record, and then notify all of the person who is subscribed to that record, is a possibility to use feed tracking. And you need to enable it first for your object. So here you could see, like what is the current amount of fields which is tracked. And here you could define, like required fields for yourself. And here you could see what is the limitation. Again, limitation is, like in general the same, but the way how they will look like, I will show you in a bit. But let me at this moment also highlight for you some information. So for example, here is that information from the official Salesforce article for which standard object it's supported. So at this moment I could not see here, for example, incidents, but in general it's like also standard object and it's available here. Also regarding its limitation, right? It's mentioned that we could set up only 20 of the object field to track, and in terms of the fields which we could not track at this moment, we have also out number, formula, and roll up summary fields. So that means that it's actually not tracking fields which are updated, let's say, automatically, right, which are read-only for us. It's only tracking fields that are like updated by the person. Okay, so let me show you how it look like. I think I already showed it in one of the tabs. Yeah, so here is how it's actually look like. So we have an update on the specific record. If it will happen, it will be available in app notifications, and the person will be able to observe that there was actual change. So next item where we will jump, it's actually how we could track how many times the file was downloaded in the Salesforce. So let's imagine that we have some specific file. So here we could see number of downloads, number of views, how we could actually track, those kind of metrics if it's required for us to do, like in wider manner. So for this, we have a specific solution. It's like using the content version history, and when we're doing a SQL query, we could take a look for those items where like they were downloaded. So you could see if it was downloaded, if it was internal, right, and when it was done. So for this, we just go into the development console, right, and here, for example, we are doing refresh on those fields, and you could see that it was created, the new content version was updated, right. And then there was an upload. So if I will use another upload, so in that case, I will be able to refresh my SQL query and see one more record, which is generated here. So here I could see by whom it was created, I mean that request. So in that order, we could track who actually did it. Next item, which is related to possibility for us to track different kind of items in the Salesforce, it's possibility for us to take a look, like email logs. And at this moment, it actually will allow us to download a CSV file, and that CSV file length is limited to 500,000 of lines. And here we could specify what is our, like start time, end time, and what exactly we would like to check, like in terms of mail event, and like what should be email direction. Should it be unbound emails, inbound email, or both? And in that case, it will actually generate for us that file, and we will be able to download it. So next item is related to the login history. So if you guys would like to, to be able to see how many times there was failures with login, how many there was, like attempts to log in through the different locations, how many times there was, for example, attempt of the user to try to log in through the API, right? And what was their source API address? You will be able to do all this kind of stuff through that specific tab, and this will help you to identify, like from where there are, like some bad stuff might happen. So next item which we could see here is related to possibility to view basic setup audit trail, and the information which is contains here is in the following. So it's actually allowing us to download setup audit trail for our organization for the last 6 months, and that file is available here, and we could actually track here, like what kind of metadata changes happened on the organization. So for example, static file was changed, or for example, some specific for the specific field I enabled field tracking, or for example I changed the lightning page, or wherever, right? So you could see that if there was any kind of changes for metadata, we could check who actually did those changes, right, for us, in order to be able, let's say, to find out the person who did some changes and ask him, let's say, why. So let's imagine the org while default for some specific object was changed, or for example default email settings were changed. So for all these kind of modifications, you will be able to find information directly in the view audit trail tab. So next one actually, let's say, item which is more useful for developers, but anyway we need to cover it. It's a possibility for us to use debug logs in the Salesforce in order to be able to track, like how our application behave. So let's imagine that you have some application and you would like to track, like what is behind of it, how many, let's say, limits its use, what is the CPU time, and all this stuff. So for this, you could define, let's say, specific log level. And as you could see here, we could define it as per Apex code, as per callout, as per validation, as per, like database. And we could define, like what is that log level that we would like to take a look. And after this, it will, like search for that user, and we'll try to capture everything what's happened with that user through these, like debug logs. And in that case, we will be able to then, like download it and see, like what was actually happened with that specific user on that specific page. So next page that we will take a look, it's actually event log files. So Salesforce actually trying to log all of kind of items related to all of these types. Let's say API calls, Apex callouts, Apex REST API, Apex triggers, like and all other stuff into specific event log files. And as you could see, it could generate them hourly, or it could do it on the daily basis. And in that case, we could actually download, like what was prepared. And if we will try to take a look into those files, right, we could do it via two manner. First, we could download it and manually review, or another one, which is, like sometimes use it via external tools, like for example, Datadog, or for example, Splunk. We could actually grab those event files from the Salesforce. So for this, what is required for us to do, it's actually via retrieving those files, log file links from there. So then here's a URL, right? So here you could see log file, and here's the URL of that log file. So we're just copying it, going to the REST Explorer in the workbench. So for us to do it in the workbench, what we need to do is we need to go to the Utilities REST Explorer, and here we could click on the Execute. So what it will show to us then, it will show us actually, like information what is stored in that file. It will be, so my session is ended, but anyway, so it will show us information about who did the change, like what's the type of the change and all the stuff. So basic information which could be found in the console, but it's also available for the API. So what is else, let's say, available for us in order to be able to track, like some kind of interaction of our customer with some pages and all this stuff. Another possible option is for us to use, for example, if you have a community, possibility to use Google for us in order to track events. So if you have any kind of events on your page, for example, some button clicks, so usage of the search and all this stuff, so you could in the community settings specify your Google ID, and in that case, Google AdSense ID, and in that case, you will be able to, like see in the Google information related to your site. So in Google Analytics, you will be able to see, like what is, let's say, a map of your page, what buttons are mostly used, and all this stuff. And it will really help you to understand, like where you are with your, let's say, usage of your application. And in that case, it will also help you to understand, like where is the dead links and all this stuff. So it's also possible for you to use. But if in the Salesforce you have some another use cases where you need to track some information, so for this you could also use a platform events and, for example, store any kind of events related to your application in the big object, and in the big object you will be able to retrieve them, like and analyze and then have your own logic based on it. So there are, like a bunch of different, let's say, methods. But at this moment, like we are actually observing some very, very basic switches, like we need to know.